Alright, welcome back to the Figma Mastery series. In the last episode, we understood where assets live inside Figma and why libraries exist. And today, we are entering one of the most important parts of this entire course. This lesson is about component and instances. If you master this topic, your entire design journey will become easier, faster, and cleaner. First, I want to imagine something simple. Let's say you draw a button. A rectangle with some text inside it. This is just a drawing right now, nothing special, just a shape and a text layer grouped together. Now imagine you are working on a large project. You may have 20 screens, and maybe each screen have 5 or 6 of these buttons. That means you are dealing with maybe 50 or 60 buttons in total. Now imagine your client suddenly says, I want all buttons to have rounded corners. Or the client says, I want the button color to be slightly darker. Or they tell you, please increase the font size inside the button. If you don't use components, you have to manually change every single button, one by one, 50 times. And this is how beginners get stuck. They spend hours fixing tiny things. Now let's understand how professionals solve this problem. A component is simply the main version of something. Think of it as the original, the master copy. Imagine you make one perfect button. You look at the spacing, you fix the text, you check the alignment, everything looks exactly right. This one button becomes your hero button, your original button. This is the version you want to reuse again and again. When you turn this hero button into a component, Figma remembers it. It treats this as the main source, and whenever you use this button somewhere else, Figma knows that this new version is connected to the main one. This is how components work. One main version, many connected versions. If you update the main version, all the connected versions update automatically. And that is how real UI designers keep hundreds of screens consistent. Let me explain it like you are 5 years old. Imagine you have a stamp, the wooden block with the rubber shape in the original stamp. When you press it on the paper, you get a print of the stamp. The prints are copies. The wooden block is the original. If you change the design of the wooden block, all future prints will look different. But if you want to change every older print, you can't. You would have to erase them and stamp again. Figma works almost exactly the same. Your component is the wooden block, your instances are the prints. This simple idea is the foundation of every professional interface ever designed. Now let's do this inside Figma step by step. Look at your empty canvas. Let's draw a simple button. Use the rectangle tool and draw a shape. Make it the size you want. Then add a text layer on top of it. Write something like button or click me. Make sure your text and rectangle are aligned. Make sure your spacing looks clean. This is your button in its raw form. Now select both the rectangle and the text. Don't worry if this feels too simple. Every component in the world starts like this. Once you have them selected, right click, scroll down until you see the option Create Component. Click that. Or if you want to be fancy and faster, press Option Command K on Mac or Alt Control K on Windows. The moment you do this, something changes visually. A purple outline appears around the button. You will see a small purple diamond icon on the left top corner of the frame. This is Figma's way of saying, this is no longer a normal shape. This is now a component. Next, look at the sidebar. Switch to the Asset tab. Inside the section called Created in this file, you will now see your button. This confirms that you successfully created your first reusable element. Now you have the master button, the original, the hero version. You can drag this button out from the Assets panel as many times as you want. Every single one of these will be connected to the original button. At this point, you already understand what a component is. You know why it matters. You know how to create your first one. You saw how Figma visually shows it with the purple diamond. You know where components appear inside the Assets panel. and you understand why this original button is different from a normal shape. This understanding is very important because in the rest of this video and the next episode, we will build more advanced reusable elements like button variants, state changes, properties, icons inside components, and even nested components. But before we can do all of that, we need to understand the second half of this topic. The second half is about instances. Instances are copies that stay connected to the original component. And understanding how they behave is the key to building a clean and reliable design system. So let's move into that now. Now that we have our first component, let's talk about what happens when you actually use it. Go to the Assets panel on the left and drag your button out onto the canvas. Or if you prefer, simply copy the component that is already on your screen. Both ways are fine. The important thing is, the new one you just placed is not another component. It is an instance. This idea is very important. The original one is the component. All the copies are instances. Let's slow down here because this is something many designers get confused about. When you select the original component, you will see a solid purple diamond icon. When you select the instance version, the icon looks exactly the same shape, but it's hollow, empty on the inside. This hollow icon is Figma's way of telling that this one is a copy that follows the original. So whenever you see the hollow diamond, you know you are looking at an instance. Let's try something together. Select the original component, the master one. Now change the corner radius. Make the corner radius softer or sharper. The moment you do this, look at every instance on the canvas. They update instantly. If you change the text style in the master component, maybe you make the text bold or you change the font size, all instances update immediately. If you change the spacing inside the component, or you adjust the padding or the auto layout structure, again every instance follows. You only do the work one time. Everything else stays perfect in sync. This is how professional designers save hours and hours of work. Now let's talk about something very important. Even though instances are connected to the master component, Figma still lets you change certain things inside them. These changes are called overrides. For example, if you have a button component that says click me, the instances can each have different text like login, submit, buy now, add to cart, or anything. Changing the text does not break the connection to the master component. Figma understands that each instance should be able to have its own label. You can also replace icons inside an instance. Maybe one button has a shopping cart icon, another has a search icon, another has no icon at all. This is completely normal. You can change numbers, labels, and certain styles that are designed to be flexible. These editable parts exist so that every instance can be slightly different while still following the same rules as the main component. This is how you build patterns that behave consistently across your entire design. Now there are also things you cannot change. For example, if your master component has auto layout, you cannot move the text freely inside the instance. You cannot drag element around or rearrange the structure. You cannot change the padding or layout unless the master allows it. You cannot reshape the instance. You cannot modify styles that are locked in the component. All of these things belong to the master component only. Figma blocks you from breaking the structure because that structure is what keeps everything consistent. Think of it like building blocks. The component defines the shape of the block. The instances are just copies of the block. You can write on the block or put a sticker on it, but you cannot reshape the block completely unless you change the main mold. Sometimes you may change something inside an instance and then realize you want it back to the original. Maybe you changed the text color and it looks weird. Maybe you tried an icon that didn't fit. Maybe the spacing got messed up. Instead of fixing things manually, Figma gives you a very helpful option. Select the instance. Look in the right sidebar. You will see an option called Reset Instance. Click it. Instantly, your instance returns to the default style of the master component. This is like saying, go back to the normal. There will be rare moments when you want to completely break the link between the instance and the master component. For example, maybe you want to redesign one specific button completely, or maybe you want to experiment without affecting everything else. In that case, right-click the instance and choose Detach Instance. After detaching, the hollow diamond icon disappears. The element becomes a normal frame again. There is no connection to the master component anymore. But be careful with this. If you detach too many things, you destroy the consistency of your project. Use detaching only when you really need to create something that does not belong to the system. Everything we just learned forms the foundation for the next few episodes. Because we are not stopping at simple components, in the next videos we will build buttons with multiple states, variants like primary, secondary, large, small, icons inside components, toggle and switches, cards and input fields, nested components inside bigger components, fully organized, scalable UI patterns. Every one of these things starts from understanding components and instances properly. If you skip this foundation, the next lesson will feel confusing. But if you understand this clearly, everything that comes next will feel natural and easy. And now you do understand it. And that's it for this video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and write something in the comments. Thank you for watching.